Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin.
I don't know when it started to feel like I was carrying everything, but now it's all I can feel. 9 months pregnant, working full time, and still doing every little thing around the house. Meanwhile, Greg, he's got weekends off, but he spends them at his parents' house. Doesn't say much about it, but I know enough to get the picture. I can barely catch my breath before the next thing on the to-do list pops up. The laundry, the dishes, the endless baby prep, it's all falling on me, and I'm tired. Not just physically, mentally, emotionally. Tired of hearing him tell me he's too busy or too tired when it's his weekend to be home. Tired of doing everything alone and wondering if this is what marriage is supposed to feel like. I started a blog a few weeks ago. It's a dumb thing to do, I guess, but it helps me keep track of the little moments. The ones that don't make me feel invisible. The flowers that bloom in the backyard. The warm smell of dinner cooking. It's like a tiny island of joy in all the noise. But even that doesn't always keep me from the frustration creeping in, especially when Greg comes back from another weekend with his parents, strolling in like nothing's wrong, expecting me to just pick up where I left off. I'm exhausted, and he doesn't even notice. He comes in, throws his bag down, and it's like he doesn't see me anymore, let alone everything I'm trying to hold together. It stings, but I don't say anything. I can't. What would be the point? I was stirring the spaghetti sauce, trying to ignore the ache in my back when Greg came in, lounging in the doorway like he had all the time in the world. "Hey, Sarah," he said casually. "Did you get the beer?" I froze. I'd forgotten. I was too tired, too focused on getting dinner ready, everything. I turned to face him, a pit of resentment settling in my stomach. "I didn't, no, sorry," I muttered, trying to keep my voice steady. "I had a lot to do today." His face darkened immediately. "Are you serious? You had all day and you couldn't even pick up a six-pack? I asked you this morning, Sarah." I wiped my hands on a dish towel, fighting the urge to snap at him, but I wasn't about to back down. "I'm not running out right now, Greg. I'm almost 9 months pregnant, and I've been on my feet all day. Why don't you go get it yourself?" He scoffed, rolling his eyes like I was being ridiculous. "You're gonna use pregnancy as an excuse now? Come on, that's not even funny. It's just beer. Just go grab it." I felt my heart beat faster, anger pulsing in my veins. "It's not just about the beer, Greg. It's about the fact that I'm doing everything around here, and you can't even make the effort to help out. You had all weekend, and you couldn't be bothered. But I'm supposed to drop everything to get your beer?" His jaw tightened. "You're seriously gonna make this a thing, huh? Just go get it. It's not that hard." The words felt like they were choking me, the way he dismissed everything I'd been doing, everything I was feeling. "No, I'm not going," I snapped, voice rising. "You can get your own damn beer." Greg stared at me like I was the one being unreasonable, his eyes hard. "I can't believe you. You're so wrapped up in yourself, you can't even do something as simple as pick up a six-pack." He shook his head, voice bitter. "You know what? Fine, stay here. You've got all the time in the world to complain, but no time for anything else. I'll just wait for you to do your job around here." I could feel my blood boiling, but I took a deep breath, fighting the urge to yell back. "You know what, Greg? I'll go. I'll get your stupid beer." I grabbed my jacket, each step heavier than the last. But I wasn't about to back down, and I wasn't about to let him think he could walk all over me. The cold air hit me as I stepped outside, the sky dimming as evening settled in. My feet were swollen, my back ached with every step, but I forced myself to walk to the car. I had no choice. I couldn't let him win. On my way to the store, I ran into Emma, the neighbor who lived 2 doors down. She was always friendly, always willing to chat, and I needed a distraction. "Hey, Sarah, how are you doing?" she asked, her voice warm and welcoming. I let out a sigh, trying to keep the frustration out of my tone. "I'm okay, just, doing everything myself as usual." Emma gave me a sympathetic look, her brow furrowing. "Is everything all right with Greg?" "Not really," I admitted. I'm tired. I feel like I'm doing everything alone and it's wearing me down. He's never here when I need him, but when he wants something, it's like I'm supposed to drop everything for him." She nodded, her eyes soft. "That sounds really hard, Sarah. You deserve better than that. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Seriously, I've been through stuff like this too." I managed a small smile, grateful for the kindness. "Thanks, Emma. I really appreciate it." I finally made it to the store, picked up the beer, and trudged back to the house. When I walked in, Greg was sprawled out on the couch, remote in hand, looking like he hadn't moved a muscle all evening. I could feel the anger rising again. "I got the beer," I said flatly, setting it down on the counter. He barely glanced up, a lazy "thanks" falling out of his mouth as he flipped through channels. I wanted to say something, but I bit my tongue. No point. I wasn't getting through to him, so I turned back to the kitchen, washed my hands, and finished cleaning up. Each movement deliberate, like I was trying to hold myself together piece by piece. I could feel the weight of it all pressing down on me, but I wasn't going to engage in another fight. Not tonight. Instead, I quietly went about my business, pretending not to notice the way he never lifted a finger to help, never offered to clean up. It felt like I was invisible, like everything I did meant nothing, and I hated it. But I wasn't going to keep shouting. I wasn't going to let him drag me into another argument. I was just done. The next morning, Greg acted like nothing had happened. Like the beer incident and everything before, it was just a bad dream I'd imagined. He walked into the kitchen, grabbed his coffee, and sat down at the table, scrolling through his phone as if the silence between us was nothing but air. No apology, no acknowledgement of the fight. Nothing. And I hated him for it. I hated the way he could just move on, like my feelings didn't matter. But I didn't say anything. What was the point? If I brought it up, it would just start another argument, and honestly, I was too tired to fight anymore. I had to keep it in, shove it down, because the alternative was unbearable. I spent the day trying to focus on work and getting the house ready for the baby. It wasn't a productive day. It never felt like I was doing enough. And when dinner time came around, I didn't feel like putting in the effort to make something special for Greg. I was already worn out from everything. So I made a quick pasta for myself, something simple, just enough to fill the empty space. I expected Greg to come home late like usual, but then, right when I was sitting down to eat, the door creaked open and he walked in, looking surprised. "Hey," he said, glancing over at the stove. "What's for dinner?" I didn't answer at first. I wasn't going to cook for him tonight. I wasn't going to waste my time or energy on someone who couldn't even meet me halfway. But I just nodded toward the stove and said, "I made some pasta. I wasn't sure if you'd be home in time for it." He frowned, like I'd just handed him a plate of garbage. "Pasta? This is it? This is what we're eating tonight?" His tone was sharp, almost accusing, like I'd intentionally screwed up. I tried to keep my voice steady. "I'm not really in the mood to cook a whole meal tonight, Greg. I've got enough going on." Greg didn't like that. His eyes narrowed, and he leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "You're not even trying anymore, are you?" He scoffed. "I mean, this is what I get after a long day at work? You can't even make a decent meal? You're supposed to be my wife, Sarah. You know, like how my mom used to cook?" I felt something snap in me. I could feel my face go hot with anger and hurt, but I swallowed it down. "Greg, I'm 9 months pregnant. I'm doing everything around here. What do you want from me? You want me to be your mom too?" His jaw tightened. "Don't use pregnancy as an excuse. I'm tired of hearing about it. You should be doing your job, not making excuses." He turned and grabbed a fork from the drawer, digging into the pasta without another word. I couldn't breathe. I stared at him for a moment, the weight of his words sinking deep into me. I was exhausted, and he wasn't just dismissing me. He was erasing everything I'd been doing, everything I had been holding together on my own. And now, he couldn't even show the smallest ounce of appreciation. But I didn't say anything. I didn't want to argue anymore. Not tonight. Not when I was already stretched so thin. I quietly cleaned up the kitchen, moving around him as he ate, my anger simmering under the surface. But I kept it in check. I wasn't going to fight anymore. I wasn't going to let him drag me into another yelling match. So I did what I always did. I retreated. I grabbed a pillow off the couch and headed for the bedroom, shutting the door softly behind me. I didn't even feel like going to bed. I just needed to be alone, away from his sharp words, from the tension that was suffocating me. I collapsed onto the bed, pulling the covers up to my chin, curling into myself. I tried to close my eyes, but all I could hear was the sound of Greg's voice, accusing me, blaming me, like I wasn't already doing everything I could. But I couldn't fight him anymore. It felt like no matter what I did, it would never be enough. It was one of those days where everything felt off. Greg had insisted we go on a family trip, even though I was due to give birth any minute. The thought of it made my stomach twist. I didn't want to go. Not with my due date so close, but he wouldn't let up. He kept pushing, saying we needed this, that I needed this. "I'm fine," I told myself, trying to convince my aching body that I could handle it. "It'll be just a few hours. What could go wrong?" But deep down, I knew it was a mistake. I was 9 months pregnant, for crying out loud. Every step felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. Still, I packed my things, half-heartedly throwing clothes in a bag, trying to ignore the constant reminder of how heavy and tired I felt. When we finally left, I tried to settle into the passenger seat, watching the scenery pass by in a blur, the familiar hum of the car filling the silence between us. Greg was driving, his eyes on the road, his hands gripping the wheel like he was on some kind of mission. I was too tired to say anything, too tired to fight. That's when it happened. I felt a sudden sharp pressure down below. My heart skipped a beat. "Greg," I said, my voice shaky, "I think my water just broke." He barely glanced at me, his expression blank. "What?" he snapped, like I'd just interrupted something important. "Are you serious?" I nodded, feeling the panic start to rise in my chest. "I'm serious. We need to go to the hospital. Now." But instead of immediately turning the car toward the hospital, Greg's face twisted into frustration. "This is unbelievable," he muttered, glancing at the passenger seat. "This car is a mess. It's everywhere." I blinked, trying to process his words. "Greg," I said, my voice cracking now, "I'm in labor. I'm not worried about the mess in the car. I need to go to the hospital." He shook his head, rolling his eyes like I was being dramatic. "You've been complaining about this car for weeks. It's disgusting, Sarah. I can't deal with this right now." I was still trying to understand how he could be so calm, so detached from the reality of what was happening. "I don't care about the car," I said, my voice rising with each word. "I need you to take me to the hospital, right now." But instead of pulling over and rushing to help me, he slammed the brakes, the car screeching to a halt. "Get out," he said, voice cold. "I'm not going anywhere until I clean this up. It's too much. Just get out." For a second, I couldn't breathe. The world seemed to freeze around me as I stared at him, trying to make sense of what he'd just said. He was leaving me here? I was going into labor, and he was telling me to get out so he could clean the damn car? The anger, the disbelief, it hit me all at once. "Greg, are you kidding me?" I asked, my voice shaking with a mix of fear and rage. "You can't be serious." But he was. He just looked at me, as if I was the one being unreasonable. "I'm cleaning the car. You're not going anywhere until I do." I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of anger and helplessness. "Greg?" I whispered, but the words didn't matter anymore. He was already out of the car, slamming the door behind him, completely ignoring the urgency of the situation. I didn't have time to argue. I needed to get help. I fumbled for my phone, hands trembling as I dialed. "Please, please pick up," I muttered under my breath. And then Emma's voice was there, calm and reassuring, cutting through the panic that was swelling in my chest. "Sarah? What's going on?" I could barely get the words out, but somehow I managed to explain. "My water just broke. Greg won't take me to the hospital. He's cleaning the car. I need help. Please." She didn't hesitate. "Stay right there. I'm coming. Don't move." I sat there, trapped, staring out at the road, the tears welling in my eyes. How had things gotten this bad? How had I ended up here, alone, abandoned by the person who was supposed to stand by me? Minutes later, Emma pulled up beside me, her car skidding to a stop. I didn't even think. I just climbed into the passenger seat as quickly as I could, trying not to cry in front of her. Emma didn't say much, just put the car in gear and drove straight to the hospital. But I could feel the weight of what was happening. I didn't know how to process it, how to make sense of what Greg had done, how he'd left me like that. But as Emma drove me through the city, I realized something. The moment Greg abandoned me on the side of the road was the moment my marriage cracked wide open, and there was no going back. It wasn't just a moment of neglect, it was a betrayal, and I was done. By the time we pulled into the hospital parking lot, my contractions were coming fast and hard. The sharp pain shot through me like a jolt of electricity, and all I could do was grip the seat and breathe through it, desperate for relief that never seemed to come. Emma parked the car, her hands trembling slightly as she helped me out. I didn't have the energy to say anything. My mind was too fogged with pain and disbelief. How had I ended up here, alone, with no one but Emma by my side? No Greg? I couldn't stop the thought from creeping in, but I shoved it aside. I didn't have time to think about him anymore. The moment we walked through the hospital doors, a nurse rushed over, guiding me to a room as fast as she could. Emma stayed right by me, her hand on my back, whispering reassuring words like she wasn't seeing the whole world unraveling before my eyes. They got me into a bed, and I was barely able to get comfortable before the next contraction hit, making my whole body tighten and twist. I let out a gasp, trying to focus on my breathing, but it was impossible. The pain was too much, too overwhelming. Emma just kept rubbing my arm, offering small comforts, but nothing could take the edge off. "Your parents are on their way," Emma said softly, her eyes scanning the monitors, watching every shift in my face. "They'll be here soon." I nodded, barely able to think straight, barely able to focus on anything but the pain. I heard my phone buzz and saw it flashing with notifications. Greg's name, over and over. Messages, missed calls. My chest tightened as I stared at the screen, but I didn't answer. I couldn't. I couldn't talk to him. Not now. Not after what he had done. Then the phone rang. Greg. I let it go to voicemail, my fingers trembling as I set it down on the side table. His voice left a message, but I didn't listen to it. I couldn't. Not when every part of me was shaking with anger, frustration, and the sheer exhaustion of everything that had led me to this moment. The nurse came back in to check on me, her face soft but focused. "We're going to get you to the delivery room, Sarah. It's time." I nodded, fighting the tears that threatened to spill. Emma helped me sit up, offering me support as I stumbled toward the door. I didn't know how much longer I could last. The pain was overwhelming, and I felt like I might collapse at any second. But Emma stayed right beside me, her presence a small island of calm in the chaos of my body and my mind. "You're doing great, Sarah," she said, her voice steady. "You're strong. You've got this." Somehow, I managed to make it to the delivery room, where they helped me into position. I could barely focus on what they were telling me to do, my body screaming with each contraction. It felt like hours before the doctor finally told me it was time to push. I couldn't think about anything else. I couldn't even hear the outside world over the sound of my own heart pounding in my ears. All I knew was that I had to get through this. I pushed, and the room seemed to close in around me. It was excruciating. Every muscle in my body was on fire. But then there was a shift. A moment of relief. The baby was coming. I heard it. The sound I had been waiting for. The first cry of my baby. A rush of relief flooded through me, tears pouring down my face as I collapsed back against the bed, my body limp with exhaustion. I could barely keep my eyes open. Emma was right there, smiling through her own tears. My parents had arrived, standing just behind her, their faces filled with concern and love. My mother reached over, her hand brushing my hair from my forehead as she whispered, "You did it, honey. You're amazing." And for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel alone. I felt surrounded by love, by people who actually cared about me. I looked down at my baby in the nurse's arms, the tiny little face staring up at me, and a wave of tenderness overwhelmed me. I couldn't stop the tears. They weren't just from the pain, they were from relief, from the realization that I was done with Greg's indifference, done with the loneliness. I was done with feeling invisible. This baby, this moment, was the beginning of something new, a fresh start, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally where I belonged. The moment I held my baby, all the exhaustion melted away. The tiny little thing, wrapped up in a soft blue blanket, looked up at me with wide, curious eyes. I couldn't stop the tears that fell. My body felt like it had just been through a war, but in that moment, I didn't care. Nothing mattered except this tiny life in my arms. My mom and dad were standing just behind me, both of them smiling like they'd won some kind of prize. I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt this much love. Real love, the kind that didn't come with strings attached or hidden resentments. They'd been there for me through everything, no matter how bad things got with Greg. And now, here they were, supporting me when I needed it the most. Emma, too, stood at the side, her eyes teary, a proud smile on her face. She'd been my lifeline through all of this, the only one who didn't treat me like I was invisible. "You did it, Sarah," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm so proud of you." I looked down at my baby again, my heart swelling with a love I didn't know was possible. I hadn't even realized how much I needed this, how much I needed to feel seen, needed to feel like I mattered. But as the nurse took the baby to clean her up, my phone buzzed on the table beside me, snapping me out of the moment. I knew exactly who it was without looking. Greg. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't want to check. I didn't want to even acknowledge that he was trying to reach me. I couldn't handle hearing his voice, not after everything. but the notifications kept coming, one after another. Missed calls, messages. I stared at the screen for a long time before I finally picked it up. I couldn't help but glance at the messages, each one worse than the last. Please talk to me. I'm sorry, Sarah. This isn't me. You know I didn't mean to hurt you. They went on like that, begging, apologizing, promising to do better. I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just nothing. I set the phone back down without responding, without engaging. I couldn't do it. I couldn't keep getting sucked into his cycle of manipulation. Not anymore. My parents noticed the tension in the room, the way I was staring at my phone, and my mom sat down beside me, brushing my hair away from my face. Honey, what are you going to do about Greg? She asked, her voice gentle but serious. I glanced at my parents, their faces full of concern but also full of love and support. I'd always known they had my back, but now with everything that had happened, it felt like they were my safe place. I don't know, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I'm so tired, Mom. I'm tired of always being the one who does everything. He doesn't care. He never has. The words felt like they were choking me, but once I started, I couldn't stop. I can't do this anymore. I can't live like this. It's like he doesn't even see me. My mom's hand tightened around mine. You deserve so much more than that, sweetheart. If you want to leave him, we'll help you. No matter what, you've got us. Dad nodded in agreement, his expression hardening just slightly. You don't have to keep fighting this battle alone. We'll be here for you every step of the way. I closed my eyes, trying to process everything. It wasn't just about Greg anymore. It wasn't about trying to fix a marriage that had already broken. It was about what was best for me, for my baby. I'm done, I said finally, my voice stronger now, more certain. I don't want him in my life anymore. I can't keep pretending like it's okay. It's not. It's never been okay. My chest felt lighter, as if a weight I didn't even realize I'd been carrying had finally been lifted. My parents didn't say anything more. They didn't need to. They had already said everything with their eyes, with their hands on mine. They were there, and they'd support whatever I chose. That's all I needed to know. Maybe it's time, I said quietly, more to myself than anyone else, for a divorce. The words didn't feel as heavy as I thought they would. They didn't feel like failure or weakness. They felt like freedom. I hadn't even told Emma yet about my decision to divorce Greg when she showed up at my door the next day. She'd come over to check on me, to see how I was doing, but I could tell something was different. There was a quiet intensity in her eyes, something she was holding back. We sat in the living room, the baby asleep in the bassinet beside us, and I told her everything. How Greg had left me at the side of the road, how he'd manipulated me and ignored me for months, how tired I was of pretending it could still work. I expected her to just listen, to give me more of the kindness she always had. But instead, she looked at me for a long time, her fingers tapping on the armrest of the chair. I know something you don't, she said slowly, her voice low. I raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? She shifted in her seat, hesitating for a second before speaking again. My husband, he's the CEO of Greg's company. I stared at her, processing the words. Wait, what? Yeah, she said, finally meeting my eyes. I've been married to Mark for almost 10 years, and I know a lot more about Greg than he probably realizes. We've been in the same circles for a long time, and honestly, I'm sick of the way he treats you. And probably other people too. He doesn't deserve to get away with it. My stomach flipped. I hadn't even considered the possibility that Greg's actions had consequences beyond our marriage, that maybe someone out there could hold him accountable. Emma leaned forward, her expression serious now. Sarah, I don't know if you're ready to hear this, but I can help. I can use my position to expose what he's done, what he's still doing. We could put pressure on his company. If people knew how he treated you, how he treated his employees, how he's been treating the people who love him, they'd turn on him. And that could be the final push for him to lose his job, his reputation, everything. At first, I was stunned. It felt almost too much, too big to wrap my mind around. Expose him? I repeated, the words feeling foreign on my tongue. Emma nodded. I can post about it. Social media is powerful. People will see it, talk about it, and Greg won't have anywhere to hide. I sat there in silence, my mind racing. I didn't want to be vindictive. I didn't want to hurt Greg out of spite, but at the same time, there was a part of me that was just so tired. Tired of him walking around like nothing ever happened, like he could get away with everything because he had money and status. Are you sure about this? I asked, my voice thick with uncertainty. I don't want to make it worse for the baby or for me. I just want to be done. I'm sure, Emma said firmly. You don't have to carry this weight anymore, Sarah. It's time to take control. I thought about it for a moment, the weight of everything pulling at me. The betrayal, the anger, the years of not being enough for him. My chest tightened, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized I wasn't just protecting myself anymore. I was protecting my baby. I was protecting my future. Okay, I said quietly, feeling a strange mix of fear and relief. Do it. And she did. Emma's post went up that afternoon, public, raw, and unflinching. She laid it all out. The emotional abuse, the neglect, the selfishness that had characterized Greg's behavior toward me. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about how Greg treated other people too. His disregard for those closest to him, his disregard for anyone who wasn't important in his eyes. Within hours, the post went viral. I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't expect this. The backlash came fast and fierce. People who had once admired Greg, his friends, his coworkers, even some of his family, started flooding social media, publicly condemning him. His employees shared stories of his cruel, dismissive behavior. Comments flooded in from people who'd been watching, waiting for someone to finally speak up. Greg's company tried to salvage the situation, but the damage was done. His reputation was crumbling. His job was at risk. And I wasn't sure how I felt about it at first. Part of me felt vindicated, like I had finally done something for myself, like I had made sure Greg couldn't walk away unscathed. Another part of me that I didn't recognize, felt uneasy. This wasn't how I thought it would feel. But then I remembered the way he'd left me, the way he'd treated me like I was nothing. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about Greg's reputation. This was about taking back control. This was about standing up for myself when I had been too scared to do so for so long. I took a deep breath, letting the weight of it sink in. No matter how messy it got, I knew I'd made the right choice. Greg had pushed me too far, and now he was facing the consequences. Finally. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of power, of agency. Something I hadn't felt in years. The phone rang early the next morning, and I didn't even have to look at the screen to know who it was. Greg. I didn't want to pick up. I didn't want to hear him talk, didn't want to listen to the same tired excuses, but something in me, something that was stronger than my anger, maybe just sheer curiosity, made me answer. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for whatever was coming. Sarah, Greg said, his voice thin, shaky, I need to talk to you. This whole thing, it's gone too far. You have no idea what you've done to me. I sat down on the couch, cradling the phone between my shoulder and ear. I know exactly what I've done, Greg, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I finally stood up for myself. For once, I've stopped letting you walk all over me. There was a long pause on the other end. Then his voice came back, sharper now, desperate. This is ridiculous. You don't get to do this to me. You don't get to ruin my life and then act like you're the victim. I'm the one who's been wronged here, Sarah. You've destroyed everything. You've destroyed us. I could almost hear him pacing on the other side of the line. The words were familiar, manipulative, the same kind of guilt tripping he'd been using for years. But now I wasn't falling for it. I'm not the one who destroyed anything, Greg, I said quietly. But you know what? I'm done listening to you spin your story. I've heard it too many times. You're right about one thing. I am done with us. I heard him inhale sharply, like he was trying to keep it together. Sarah, please, you don't understand. This is a mistake. You're throwing everything away. You're ruining our family. You're ruining my career. Do you even care about what this is going to do to us? My chest tightened at his words, but I didn't let it break me. You didn't care about us when you left me on the side of the road, Greg. You didn't care about me when you treated me like I was invisible. Now you want me to care about your career? About your reputation? You've got to be kidding me. He went quiet for a moment, and I could almost feel the shift in his tone when he spoke again. Listen, Sarah, I've already told you I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I made a mistake. Can't we just fix this? Can't we just forget all of this and go back to how it was? I felt my stomach turn. He was trying again, always trying to pull me back into his web with empty promises, with his version of what was right. You think I'm just supposed to forget everything, Greg? Like I've done for years? No, I'm done with you and your manipulations. A silence hung in the air, thick with the things neither of us said. Then I did something I hadn't done before. I pressed record on my phone. I didn't need to listen to him anymore. I didn't need to hear his apologies or listen to him try to manipulate me again. I just needed the evidence, the proof that he hadn't changed, that he wasn't going to change. He continued, trying to rationalize, trying to shift the blame onto me. But I was already done. I didn't let him finish. "I'm not talking about this anymore, Greg," I said, my voice steady, final. "You've made your choices. I've made mine." The silence that followed was thick, but when he finally spoke again, it wasn't the pleading tone I expected. It was resigned, like he knew the game was over. "Fine," he said, his voice tight with frustration. "I'll agree to the divorce, but don't act like I'm the only one who screwed this up, Sarah." I didn't answer him, just ended the call. My hands were shaking slightly, but I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. I immediately sent the recording to my lawyer. I wasn't going to let Greg manipulate me anymore. He thought he still had power over me, that he could control the narrative, but I wasn't giving him that anymore. The next few days were a blur of paperwork, phone calls, and legal stuff that felt like a whole new language. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I felt like I was breathing again. I signed the divorce papers, and as soon as I did, something inside me clicked into place. It wasn't just the end of my marriage, it was the beginning of everything else. I was finally taking control of my life. And I wasn't going to let anyone, least of all Greg, take that away from me. The finality of the divorce felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. It wasn't just the end of a marriage, it was the end of a long chapter where I'd spent too many years believing I wasn't enough. But now I felt lighter, clearer. The days after the divorce were full of small but significant moments. I kept working on my blog, focusing on the little joys that had always kept me going. The baby's first meal, the way the sun hit the windows in the morning, the warm comfort of a quiet evening. I'd spent so many years running on empty, but now I was filling myself up with the things that truly mattered. My baby, my family, my friends. Greg's world was unraveling. His name continued to trend on social media, the viral video exposing him for what he was: selfish, careless, and cruel. The public backlash was harsh, and his reputation took a massive hit. I didn't feel satisfaction at his downfall. Not exactly. But I couldn't deny there was a sense of justice. He couldn't hide behind his lies anymore. He couldn't pretend his actions didn't have consequences. Meanwhile, my relationships with Emma and my parents deepened. Emma was a constant presence, offering support in a way I never expected but always needed. She'd become more than just a friend. She was family now, and my parents, who'd always been there for me, only grew more invested in my future. We spent evenings together watching the baby, sharing meals, and talking about everything and nothing. I realized how much I'd missed that feeling of true connection, of being cared for and supported. As I sat on the couch one afternoon, my baby nestled in my arms, I found myself thinking about everything I'd been through. It had been a long road to get here. So much pain, so many compromises, so many years spent trying to make something work that wasn't meant to. But looking down at my baby, feeling the weight of her in my arms, I knew I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was thriving. I smiled to myself, the small sounds of my baby's breath filling the room. I had learned a lot through this journey. I had learned that I was stronger than I'd ever realized. I had learned that I didn't need anyone's approval to be worthy, that I could stand on my own, and that my happiness didn't depend on Greg or anyone else. Looking at my baby, I knew I was ready for the future. There were challenges ahead, no doubt, but I wasn't afraid of them. I was free from the toxic past, and I had everything I needed to build a new life, a better life, a life where I was the one calling the shots. I wasn't just starting over. I was beginning something new, something real, something I could be proud of. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful.